A wooden statue in a Japanese convent wept 101 times. A priest lifted the tears off its wooden cheek with tweezers and drove them to a forensic laboratory. The lab was never told where the sample came from. The certificate came back in 9 articles. Article 9 is one line. The object examined has adhering to it human liquids which belong to the blood group O. The nun who lived with that statue is blood group B. This is the paper trail of Akita, walked in order, including the parts that go against it. Yuzawadai, a hill outside Akita City in the snow country of northern Japan. About 10 years before any of this, a small group of women gathered in a house there to live a life of prayer. They had no priest of their own. In 1973, a sister of that community went deaf. Totally. Her specialist wrote one word in the file: incurable. That June, a wound opened in the palm of her left hand. It was shaped like a cross. It hurt so much she took out her crochet work to keep her mind off it and pressed the needle through her fingers anyway. Then the statue in their chapel started to speak to her. 3 times in 1973. 70 centimeters of katsura wood, carved in 1963 by a wood sculptor in Akita City named Saburo Wakasa, from a single block. The pose is not original to Japan. Wakasa carved it as an image of Our Lady of All Nations, a Dutch devotion. That devotion has since been ruled on negatively by Rome. It changes nothing about what the wood did, and we are not going to pretend the connection is not there. The tears began on the 4th of January 1975. They were logged like laboratory events: date, hour, and how many people were standing there. Over 6 years, the counts run from 6 people to 65. The largest gatherings cluster on the most public dates. The First Church Commission had an explanation. The nun was producing it herself, unconsciously. Ectoplasm. They reached that conclusion without ever conducting an inquiry at the convent itself. In 1975, samples went to a legal medicine faculty with their origin withheld. The blood on the statue's hand typed Group B. So does the nun. That result was printed in a Catholic magazine. The tears that same year typed AB. That result was not printed. But those 1975 samples had a problem, and the chaplain was the one who said so. Fingers had touched the gauze. The analysis recorded strange bodies from the contact. The evidence was compromised, and he knew it. So he waited 6 years for a tear no fingers had touched. In December 1979, a television station called The Convent, their director had taken an anonymous phone call warning him not to speak about the tears of the Virgin of Akita. 4 of them arrived on the 6th. They set a camera in the parlor beside the chapel and rigged it to expose one frame every 6 seconds, all night. It photographed nothing. They didn't set it up again the following night. At 10 past midnight, the statue was in tears, and the technicians ran in shooting by hand. Some of the first pictures came out spoiled because their hands were shaking. What they regretted, in the chaplain's account, was not placing the camera the previous evening as they had on the day they arrived. They reset the rig that evening. Past 11, a sister kneeling before the statue found the tears again. And this time, the interval camera was running. The film went out later on Japanese television, inside a program that asked whether the whole thing was a lie or a reality. It was not live. It was not 12 million viewers. Those are things the internet added later. The 22nd of August, 1981, the statue wept in front of 44 people. This time, the chaplain had his tweezers, fresh cotton, lifted with tweezers so his fingers never touched it, rolled to the size of an apricot seed, held under the wooden chin, sealed in a new vinyl sack, and driven to the university that afternoon. A biochemist at Akita University passed it to a forensic specialist at the University of Gifu. 3 months later, the certificate came back. Group O. The nun is B. The hand, in the contaminated year, was B. The clean sample, 6 years later, is O, out of 1 block of dried wood. The priest who collected it claimed nothing more than what he had. The 15th of September, 1981. 65 people watched the 101st tear. It never wept again. Now the part most retellings leave out. The Second Commission voted 4-3 in favor, and the bishop refused to use the votes. Before the vote, he had received a letter from the Holy See advising him to be careful. So he abstained from declaring the events supernatural to stay faithful to the caution Rome had counseled. He had the majority, and he did not take it. There's more against it. A hospital report to the Canonical Commission classified the sister as a specific case of hysteria. In 1990, the president of the Japanese Bishops' Conference said the events of Akita were no longer to be taken seriously. In 1999, the papal nuncio to Japan said the Holy See had never given any kind of approval to the events or the messages of Akita. What the bishop did do in 1984 was authorize veneration in his own diocese and judge the events worthy of belief for his diocese, not for the universal church, and in the same letter he wrote the sentence nobody quotes. Even if the Holy See later published a favorable judgment, it is a question only of a private revelation, which is not a point of doctrine. Christians are bound to believe only the content of divine revelation. No Catholic is required to believe any of this. That is not a weakness in the case. It is the Church telling you that your salvation does not depend on a statue. Note also that the rules have changed. Under the norms in force then, a local bishop could rule. Since May 2024, the Vatican's dicastery must always be consulted. The usual outcome is a permission rather than a declaration, and declaring something supernatural is reserved to the Pope. Akita has never been judged by Rome either way. Recognized locally in 1984, never approved by Rome, never condemned by Rome. In 1982, at benediction, a bell rang and the deaf sister heard it. Her hearing came back. She lived another 42 years and died on the Feast of the Assumption, 2024, at 93. At her own request, her body was given to a medical school. The message she was given was not a prophecy of doom to be traded online. It was an instruction to pray the rosary and a promise, and both belong to Christ. Whatever help comes through his mother is his grace reaching us through her, never beside him. A wooden statue wept for 6 years in front of as many as 65 people at a time. A forensic laboratory that did not know what it was testing found human fluid of a blood group nobody in that room carried. Rome has never ruled on it. The Church has never required you to believe it. The certificate is still in the convent. If nobody ever showed you the documents, there are more of these here. Subscribe.